Hi, everybody. Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We are live here on 12 Ounce Sports and, of course, the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. It's July the 31st. That's Wednesday. And wow, the summer is flying by. And we've got a lot to talk about here tonight, live on 12 Ounce Sports, as I mentioned, and the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. As again, brought to you as always by tickets.12ouncesports.com. And of course, by the official copy of the Captain Lou Sports Network and the Captain Lou Extravaganza, javicoffee.com. If you're a coffee drinker like I am, I know that you've got to check out javicoffee.com. And when you're there, use the promo code Captain Lou for 15% off of your purchase. That is javicoffee.com. Hey, we got a great show planned for you tonight. And I want to bring in our special guest. He is the OG, my original partner. Matt, come on in. They're my original partner. The Captain Lou and Matt podcast from a long time ago. Let's welcome into the show Matt Gamelin. Matt, grab a headset. How the heck are you? It's a long time since you and I have been able to chat together on the air.
I know, Captain. Great to see you as always. Great to be back on the show. The summer, like you said, flying by. And, I just got one question for you. Where's the Dan Campbell jersey?
Well, that is so hard to find right now, Matt. Trying to find one that's signed. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But just a Matt Campbell jersey in general. We're going to get one. We're going to add it. Of course, he's the man right here in the Detroit area. You know it.
Oh, yeah.
We're, let's talk a little bit about that playoff game that you and I got to go to. We're both long-suffering Lions fans. Boy, have we been through some heartbreak. And that playoff game against the Rams, the coldest day of the year in Detroit, but it didn't matter. Man, what an atmosphere, what a game. Boy, a lot of joy and jubilation in that stadium, wasn't it?
Oh, it was amazing. Like you said, one of the coldest days of the year, but it couldn't have been hotter in that arena, just in terms of the energy that you felt in Ford Field that entire game. I mean, from start to finish, there was just a buzz in that stadium. It was incredible. It was a very unique experience that, I think you and I have only experienced so many times, if ever. It's just a magical, magical night in Detroit. And one of the best games you'll ever see out of the Lions from start to finish.
Oh, for sure. It was back and forth. They made the stops when they had to. And of course, getting that win. And we all know the run they had going to the championship game. And, I don't begrudge Dan Campbell for going for it in the third quarter. He's done it all year. He's done it his whole career, his coaching career. It's got him there. And they make that pass. We're going to the Super Bowl, and I know it's easy to say that now, but I don't begrudge him one bit.
No, I don't either. And you kind of touched on it. We've seen it work out a lot more often than it hasn't, and it's kind of living and dying by that sword. It's just unfortunately the times that it doesn't work, especially in those big situations, are the ones that are going to get magnified the most. It's kind of the unfortunate thing about those kind of play situations, including, we'll talk about it later, the onside kick and like how that's going to kind of change. We've seen examples of that, how it's paid off and even cost some teams in the past.
Well, let's talk about that as we fast forward now. That's a great segue. We've got the 2024 seasons upon us. Training camps have opened up. We'll talk about the Lions and a little bit about some of the teams in the Central or the NFC North. I beg your pardon. The onside kick rule. You can't kick it before the fourth quarter. You got to be losing to kick an onside kick. And if I'm not mistaken, you got to tell the referee if you're going to do it. I mean, what the heck is that?
It's very confusing. I'd be curious to see, because the only thing I can think of is they just want to phase the play out pretty much until the end of the game. And maybe that could be to maybe injury concerns. I know that was why they'd been changing a lot of things related to kickoffs.
Yeah.
So that can be the only thing I can think of. I'd be curious to see actual numbers and statistics on that. But yeah, it takes a lot of the element of surprise out of the play. And that kind of made the play. That's kind of what made the play so fun to watch over the years. You think back to that Super Bowl with the Saints and the Colts back in, I think it was 2009, that onside kick to start the half. It was, what an incredible play that was. And now you'll never see that again.
No, you won't. And so it's, just another crazy rule that the NFL has come up with, and like the kickoff rule now, and that is going to be fun to watch. And I think you're going to see more running backs be kickoff returners, because they're going to have that wedge built in front of them. And, the kicking team, what they're going to line up 10 yards, or is it like 5 or 10 yards in front of the defensive or the kickoff return team? I mean, that's going to be crazy to watch.
Oh, I know, and it's going to add some excitement back into the special teams, because you've been seeing a lot more touchbacks because, what's the incentive to bring it out, especially now when you can just call it and not even have to be in the end zone, I believe, for it to go automatically out to 25. So yeah, I'm very intrigued by the rule change there.
So right before training camp started really about a week ago or so, and there were some big storylines, especially in the NFC North. The Lions, it's amazing. They signed Amon-Ra St. Brown in the offseason. They signed Jared Goff, Penei Sewell. They got their cornerstone signed to extensions, 3 to 4 years, whatever the case may be. And there was no drama as far as that goes in the Lions camp. And to me, that's a sign of solidarity, and they're all on the same page. And Matt, it's a strange feeling. Last year, we kind of maybe thought the Lions had a shot at winning the division, maybe getting a home playoff game. A lot of people thought, no, it's the same old Lions. Well, I don't know if you can call them that anymore, but it's just a strange feeling coming in to actually think the Lions are a top 4 contending team for a Super Bowl.
And it's crazy to believe, and it's not the same old Lions anymore. They're that vibe around this team is gone. And going back to the contracts that are recently given out, it's really nice to see. I think of a guy like Jared Goff, for example, that came into Detroit back in 2021 off the heels of that trade for Matthew Stafford, and a lot of people were thinking that was only going to benefit the Rams only. Goff was maybe going to be this bridge quarterback, but he's turned into a top 10 quarterback again. And you got to credit Dan Campbell, Brad Holmes for building the team around him that they needed to build, because like you said, now they've got an excellent foundation, a great core to build around now now you got them locked down long term. It's incredible. But yeah, it's crazy to believe that they're Super Bowl contenders, but when you look at this team, it's no surprise at all. I mean, there's, they've got weapons, they've got depth, in so many areas of their team. It's really exciting to see.
Their offensive line is probably, if it's not the best in the league, it's in the top 2 or 3, and it's so huge to have that. And it's almost become a destination spot to go to.
Yeah.
I mean, and they've got cap space, and, they've got that aura. Dan Campbell, it's so funny. Everybody kind of mocked him. I mean, we kind of did a little bit when he first came in, biting kneecaps all the way. We come up with bite the other kneecap, whatever. But boy, oh boy, you watch. It started with Hard Knocks. Everybody said it was corny, but it's just the feeling in Detroit and here in the state of Michigan is just, it's almost like we don't know how to act. You and I have talked about it many times at the beginning of last year. How are the Lions going to handle success? How are they going to handle being the hunted? And I think they proved they did it all right. And so, boy, oh boy, just can't wait. Like I keep saying, don't want to wish the summer away, but Sunday night, opening weekend, September the 8th, I believe it is, Lions and the Rams to kick off the season. That is going to be one hell of a game.
Oh, what a great game that's going to be. We talk about Dan Campbell and the way he's kind of built this team and the top 5 offensive line that this team has boasted over the last couple of years. And that's really where it starts. Dan Campbell right away, he mentioned grit being one of his big words, and that's a sign of playing physical. And they're going to play physical right up at the offensive line. And it's paid off massive dividends for this team because of that top 5 O line. You had one of the best running games in the NFL last year with that dual threat with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs, by the way, had a phenomenal rookie year. You talk about a draft pick that people kind of scratch their heads at, but it paid off tremendously.
Oh, it sure did. And they got Sam Laporta. Jack Campbell, and then Brian Branch. What a draft last year for the
Incredible.
Lions. And they got Terrion Arnold, they got Rakestraw. I think, obviously, real quick with the Lions, finishing up with them, training camp, they've had one big injury. Well, two. You've got Kaminsky went down the other day. That poor guy, he's been off and on hurt, but now it looks like he's going to be out for the regular season. And then we lost the money badger, Badgley, the kicker. Now we got Bates coming in from the Michigan Panthers. The kicking game, that's one to keep an eye on for the Lions. I know the guy can boom some kicks. We saw him kick 65-yarders for the Panthers, but it's one thing to kick a field goal in front of 8,000 people at Ford Field. It's another thing to do it on a Monday night football game against the Seahawks or against the Bears on Thanksgiving in front of 65,000.
Oh yeah, and the accuracy is going to be the question mark. So we know, it's like you said, we know he can boom the football down the field in through the goalpost. It's just a matter of accuracy. We talked about expectations for this Lions team. Now it's a whole new set of expectations for this team, and they handled it well last year with the expectations that, hey, maybe this is finally the year we get a home playoff game. Well, now how do they handle it when the expectation is potentially a Super Bowl, especially when the schedule this year, we look at that schedule, I think it's a massive jump in difficulty compared to last year. Now you're one of the good teams now you get one of the good team type of schedules.
Well, yeah, now it's going to be interesting. They've got the Rams, they've got Tampa to lead off, then they've got Dallas, I think, in week 5. They've got it's just amazing the schedule they've got. They got their kryptonite, that being Seattle on Monday Night Football in Game 4. I mean, yeah, it's going to be insane, that schedule, that's for sure. Matt, sticking with the NFC North, the boys in Wisconsin, their quarterback, Jordan Love, he's had 10 good games last year, and he decided he was going to hold out till he got a brand new contract. And, that's the way the league is now. Mm-hmm. It's a quarterback driven league. And, first of all, I think the quarterbacks have their team, I don't want to say held hostage, but over barrel. And $55 million for a quarterback that's not won a Super Bowl. You won a playoff game. But I look at some of these other contracts, Trevor Lawrence, Tua, never won a playoff game. Justin Herbert, has he even been to the playoffs? I can't remember if he got in as a wild card or not. Just insane what the quarterback numbers are.
And all that is leverage,
Yeah.
It's especially with Jordan Love, the Green Bay with that contract, I think, is hoping that he ends up just like kind of with the same progression that Aaron Rodgers did. Aaron Rodgers had that first year, I believe it was in 08 or 09, kind of struggled in the beginning, but really kind of blossomed towards the end. And that's kind of what we saw out of Jordan Love. We remember that Thursday night game against the Lions where he really struggled. But then by the end of the year, he was going into AT&T Stadium and embarrassing the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And he looked phenomenal out there. So, it's kind of I think it's a real boom or bust signing, but if you're Green Bay, I think you've got the confidence that it's going to pay off.
And I think they've got some young weapons. I really like the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, Jaden Reed. I think he's going to be their number one target. I'm a little, as a Lions fan, I'm hopeful that their defense isn't that good, but that would be my concern if I'm a Packers fan, is their defense. But I think they're going to be right there. It's funny is you win a playoff game, man, that is such a amazing confidence builder. I think the Lions can build from that. Look at all the chances the Lions had in the past, the 3 playoff games in your lifetime before that, they couldn't win. And it's like a huge barrier. And so Green Bay is going to be a tough out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And going back to those old Lions teams, they just couldn't win those games. And, you saw, I don't think the excitement was the same as it was now with this current team. So yeah, I think it's a great point. And, the Packers, I don't think they're going anywhere. As long as Jordan Love continues to improve and be the guy that they need under center, Packers are going to be right there in the NFC North, giving the Lions some trouble.
Oh, definitely. And sticking with the NFC North, real quick with Chicago, they got the number 1 pick in the draft, Caleb Williams. And it's, I got some interesting facts. I think that he could set the all-time franchise record for single season. I wish I could remember who's got it. It's for yardage. It's not a lot.
I think it's Jay Cutler.
And I think it's, what is it, 3,800
I
yards?
believe so. I think it's sub 4,000.
And, he could potentially get the touchdown record in his rookie year. And, I mean, they've got some weapons on that team. They got nobody to block for him, but they got some weapons. I saw DJ Moore just sign a big extension, $100 million extension, just mind-boggling numbers. I'm not ready to crown the Bears the next playoff team out of the NFC North. But there's going to be some excitement in Chicago.
Yeah, you brought up a good point about the offensive line. That's still probably the biggest question mark with that offense. Like you said, they got lots of weapons around that team that they're trying to surround Caleb Williams with to make his transition into an NFL starter a little more comfortable. I think it's really going to come down how well can he extend plays on his feet and make it work with his arm outside of the pocket. Because we saw a little bit of that at USC and what made him a Heisman Trophy winner.
Yeah.
How well can that translate into the NFL, though, I think is the question, especially on this Bears team.
So, yeah, you've got so many teams that I think it's going to be quite the dogfight. You've got Kansas City looking for a three-peat. You've got I don't know. In the NFC, you've got the Eagles that want to come back. You've got the Cowboys, and it's just so much. It's going to be an exciting season in 2024. Can't wait for it.
Yeah, Kansas City, of course, they sit right atop the throne. Yet another Super Bowl, but you got a lot of teams that want to knock them off their perch, including the Lions, like the Eagles, the 49ers. We'll see about the Cowboys.
The 49ers, great. I don't know how I could forget about them with Joe Montana sitting over our shoulders. Yeah, that's yeah, I think we've got a rematch with them this year. I know we got a rematch with Dallas, like I said. Boy, oh boy, I can't wait for that game at Jerry World after what happened in December last year.
Oh man, I still can't get over that call at the end of that game.
I don't like to blame referees for outcomes of games, but that was absolutely insane. I don't know what, it's just something about Dallas and bad calls. I mean, it goes back to Dean Blandino and before that, for all we know. Hey, we're going to take 30 seconds, come back. We're going to go to the college side here. We've got Matt for about 10 more minutes here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're live here on 12 Ounce Sports and the Captain Lou Sports Network. All right, welcome back, everybody, to 12 Ounce Sports and the Captain Lou Extravaganza, and, of course, the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. We invite you to follow us on all of our social media platforms, and that includes Twitch, X, Facebook, Instagram, and, be a subscriber to our YouTube channels, the Captain Lou Sports Network and 12 Ounce Sports. We've got so much programming, and we've got some exciting stuff coming on here on 12 Ounce Sports. We're back up. We're going to get back going on our 24/7 live TV channel. Check out 12ouncesports.com for all the details on that. And check out our articles, our swag shop, I should say. We've got so many things in the works here on 12 Ounce Sports. We've got, we're going to be covering a huge indoor lacrosse tournament in Montana in October. The guys are going to be heading out there. It is going to be phenomenal. We've got more details on that coming up here a little bit later on. And, of course, check us out next week on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock as well for another edition of Captain Lou's Champions of Sports History. We've got a very, very a special guest planned. I'm going to announce it on Monday, but it's going to be a good one. And, I just want to make sure everything works out with it. But as of right now, it does. And really excited for this special guest next week. So can't wait to bring that to you. So we're joined by the OG, the original tag team partner of the Captain Lou and Matt podcast series back when we were on Blog Talk Radio back. I think we started it in 2009 or 2010 or something like that. And, we had a lot of fun. We used to do it on Saturday nights, remember?
Oh, yeah.
About 9:30. We'd do it 9:30 to 11. We'd get a couple of callers or a couple of people that would chime in every once in a while. We just talked sports. We talked a lot about college football. That was always our go-to, Matt. And, of course, the Lions. But you and I we had a really cool friendly rivalry with Notre Dame and Michigan back in the day. And now, Matt, as Michigan fans, we are kind of still basking in the glow of the national champions, that being the Michigan Wolverines, as you can see right here with our little national champions. And no, it's not tainted. I don't care what anybody says. You know what? So it's going to be an interesting college football season, Matt. We've got 18 teams in the Big Ten. We've got a 12-team playoff. When you and I did our Captain Lou and Matt podcast, we had the BCS. So a lot has changed since then.
Oh, I'm so excited for the 12-team format now. You're going to see a lot of new scenarios. A lot of teams get a chance they may not normally have. We're going to see some non-Power 5 schools maybe make a run against a school like Alabama or Georgia. It's going to be really exciting to see. I'm really excited for that new format.
Yeah, we've got, it's just amazing to me, with Michigan's schedule this year. They open up, their second game is Texas coming to the Big House. I mean, that's a marquee matchup, a rematch of the 2004 Rose Bowl, where Michigan got beat by Vince Young by 1 point. Then you've got USC coming to the Big House. Never in my lifetime did I ever think USC was ever going to come and play at Ann Arbor. I know they've played in East Lansing before, but not in Ann Arbor. Then Michigan's got Oregon coming. They go to Washington. They go to Ohio State, all in the same year. I mean, who would have thought we would ever see a schedule like that in the college football landscape?
I know it's a new era in college football, and you're seeing it there. You're seeing it in the Big 12. You're seeing it in the ACC, and you're even seeing it in the SEC with Texas and Oklahoma joining up in the SEC. It's a whole new landscape for college football, and you just feel bad for the Pac-12.
Oh, who would have thought we wouldn't be having that? I feel bad for Washington State and for Oregon State, because they're kind of left, twisting in the wind, if you will. But I still think probably within the next decade, something's going to change again. If we have the two mega conferences, they're going to be let back in, and we'll go back to some type of divisional format where I just, when you've got those teams in the Big Ten, you got Stanford and Cal in the ACC. I mean, what the holy hell is that? I mean, I saw the ACC media poll. They got Stanford picked last. I mean, and I just, what are they going to do when Stanford's women's volleyball team has to travel down to play Duke or, Florida State? I mean, it's just, money is no object for these guys.
Oh yeah, and travel expenses are more expensive now than they've ever been. And to your credit, you look at some of these smaller budget programs, some of these smaller budget sports, they don't have the money to compete, with football and the massive TV deals that they get nowadays. So that could be played to a detriment to that, and I think that's a great point to bring up. Going back to Stanford and Cal, those are two teams I could have seen going to the Big Ten.
Yeah. I mean, it fits the academic mold of some of the teams in the Big Ten, like Michigan and Northwestern and whatnot. I mean, again, it's a head scratcher. And, it's all derived by money, which is, like with NIL, and now the colleges can pay these players, and it's I don't know. I'm excited for the change. I'm a traditionalist, that, but I'm also excited to see maybe some new games, new rivalries that are. I don't know if they'll ever pan out. The one thing I don't want to see changed is Michigan Ohio State at noon on the last Saturday of the year. I don't care if they end up playing the following weekend in the championship game, but that's one rivalry I hope that we can always have.
Oh yeah, and I don't see that going anywhere. And the game of college football, I mean, it's been evolving in some form over the last 100 years, especially when you talk about NIL and what it means to be, amateur status. That's been evolving in what it means in terms of like what financial compensation you can receive, since really it was a thing to get any kind of financial assistance to go be a student athlete. But with all of this change in college football, it's just all the more reason to be excited.
Yeah. Oh, guaranteed. 12-team playoff. The first 4 games are going to be the weekend before Christmas, I believe. And they're going to be at home sites of like, I think like the 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, and so on. I can't wait to see a team like Florida State or LSU have to play a Penn State or a Michigan in Ann Arbor or Ohio State. I don't think it'll happen this year because I don't know. I think it might happen with Ohio State because Oregon, I think, is going to be very tough to beat in the Big Ten. But that's what I can't wait to see, Matt. A playoff game in the snow in the Northeast or in the Midwest or wherever, or in Utah for that matter.
Oh yeah, and I love the idea of it not necessarily being a neutral site. You have to go to the higher seed to play them. I do think it's something that could be changed here in the next few years, because I mean this is somewhat experimental with this new playoff format. So I think you could see some things change with it, such as seeding, where these games take place. So I think it's something you could see get some tweaking. But man, those opening round games are going to be something to watch, especially late December like that. Like you said, to see a Florida State have to go play like a Michigan or a Wisconsin, or maybe even vice versa.
Yeah.
It's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah, it definitely is. And, it's it all starts with practice coming up here in about 2 weeks for the colleges. I know the pros, like we said, training camp, the Hall of Fame games tomorrow. Are you ready for some football?
Oh, I'm always ready.
And again, we talked about, we got you for a couple of more minutes. I know you got stuff you got to get to. You're a busy man, and I appreciate you taking time out to be with us. It's always great conversation, Matt. But we talked about the top quarterbacks. We saw this. ESPN rated the top college quarterbacks in this century, 2000 and on. Baker Mayfield was number 1. And, some of the names on there, blast from the past. And I could, Kellen Moore was on there. And I can remember you and I staying up late on Friday nights and Saturday nights until 1, 2 in the morning watching those whack games with Kellen Moore and some of those other great players.
Those are great memories, and you talk about what if that team had gotten a chance in this new college football playoff format? Who knows if they could have made a run? Granted, they had a bit of an easier schedule, but they ran through a lot of those teams. I think Kellen Moore won about 50 games as their starting quarterback.
He sure did.
Crazy. Some great memories, especially with those Boise teams. They were fun teams to watch back in the day.
All right, I'm going to leave you with this, Matt, before we go to break and say goodbye. Another list that I photoshopped earlier today, I wanted to go over with you. The top 10 college football players since 2000. Here we go. Number 10, from Pitt, Larry Fitzgerald. Number 9, quarterback out of – here's one that's funny. Quarterback, here he's got the LSU logo, Joe Burrow. In that other list we saw, he had the Ohio State logo. Yep. Number 8, offensive tackle Bryant McKinney from Miami. Number 7, running back from USC.
Reggie Bush.
All right. Number 6, quarterback from Florida.
Tim Tebow.
All right. Here's one, safety out of the U. Number 5.
Ed Reed.
Ed Reed. There you go. Number 4, quarterback out of Texas. We talked about him for a second.
Vince Young.
There you go. Number 3, quarterback out of Auburn.
Cam Newton.
Cam Newton. Number 2, quarterback out of Oklahoma.
Oh, see, there's a few you can go with here. Baker
Mayfield.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to give you this guy's position. This one's kind of a surprise to me. The number 1 player. If you can't think of it, I'll give you a hint that might help you.
All right. What team?
Nebraska. Another hint?
Sure.
He stepped on Aaron Rodgers on Thanksgiving.
Ndamukong Suh.
Ndamukong Suh. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
Amazing.
The number 1 player rated of this century, Ndamukong Suh.
Man, imagine him on these Lions teams now.
Oh, my God. He would fit right in, wouldn't he? Oh, wow. Well, Matt, I know you got to run. This has been a lot of fun. We're going to go to break. I know you got a lot going on. You were part of the the Transplant Foundation's World Games. Let's tell us a little bit about that before you go, about that experience with you. That was awesome.
Yeah. So I did some work with the Transplant Games of America, brought together by the Transplant Life Foundation. They're a organ donation advocacy nonprofit organization, actually based right here out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The Transplant Games, they occur every 2 years. It's a biennial celebration of life, if you will. It's an Olympic-style event that hosts over 20 different sports that you can medal in, primarily for organ donors and organ recipients. It also brings together the organ donor community, such as donor family, supporters, caregivers, whatever have you. It was a 6-day event. This year, back earlier in July, it was hosted in Birmingham, Alabama, and Birmingham was a great city for the games. We always hear they're a growing sports city, and it's easy to see. They're very hospitable. The facilities are very nice. Fun fact, about 12 years ago, Grand Rapids actually hosted the games.
Wow.
Yeah.
Birmingham, Alabama. I think they used to have a World Football League team way back in the 1970s. So
now they're dominating the UFL.
There you go. All right, Matt, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we'll wrap it up right here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're live right here on 12 Ounce Sports and the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube. Hi, everybody. Captain Lou here from 12 Ounce Sports and, of course, the Captain Lou Extravaganza and Captain Lou's championship years in sports history. Hey, if you're like me, you love to go to ball games. Baseball, football, basketball, whatever, minor league baseball, especially this summer. There's nothing better than a Saturday night game, major league or minor league baseball, Sunday afternoon. I've got the place for you to go to get those tickets for those games. Tickets.12ouncesports.com. We are a ticket broker, which means we don't charge you the exorbitant fees that you might see on some of those other secondary markets. Hey, if there's a concert you want to go to this summer, tickets.12ouncesports.com. Use the promo code 12ounce as well, and you'll get a better discount. Tickets.12ouncesports.com. It's that simple. Can't say it enough. For the best prices on tickets this summer, make sure you go to tickets.12ouncesports.com. That's right, tickets.12ouncesports.com. Again, a lot of great football games coming up here in the next month or so, college and pro. Kicking things off tomorrow night in Chicago, by the way, or in Canton, Ohio. That's in the stomping grounds of our godfather of 12-ounce sports, Jeff Beck, as the Bears and Caleb Williams are going to look to try to get, although they're not playing, all the starters aren't going to play in that game. It's going to be just for the other players to try to show their wares, if you will. But go to tickets.12ouncesports.com. As we mentioned, we're a ticket broker. And we don't charge you some of those exorbitant fees that you see on some of the other sites. That's tickets.12ouncesports.com. And also want to remind you that we are indeed brought to you, as always, by JaviCoffee.com. If you haven't been there, I've talked a lot about it. Javi Coffee, if you like instant coffee or regular coffee for that matter, I invite you to check out the website. It's so easy to use. A couple of teaspoons of, or maybe a tablespoon, depending on how strong you like it, hot or cold. If you like iced coffee, that seems to be the big, the rage right now. JaviCoffee.com. Regular, decaf, salted caramel, French vanilla, my go-to, Irish cream. They've got all different flavors that come out each month. It's don't just take my word for it. Check out the website. That's JaviCoffee.com. And while you're there, make sure that you use the promo code Captain Lou for 15% off of your purchase. That is JaviCoffee.com. Hey, big thanks to my old tag team partner, Matt Gamelin, for joining us here tonight. We talked about him and I started the podcast way back. He was a youngster back, I want to say 2010, somewhere around that area. 2010, 2011, somewhere in that area. We just decided on a Saturday night. We had a microphone set up. I think, I don't even know if I've got the old receiver set up that I used to use. It was one of those dial-up ones. And we would get on there and talk sports for an hour, hour and a half. Mostly, like we said, college football, pro football. Back then, he was a big Notre Dame guy, and I was a Michigan guy. It was such a fun conversation. And so, yeah, it's picked up just where we left off. If you missed any of that, check us out on YouTube on 12 Ounce Sports or the Captain Lou Sports Network. Subscribe to those channels. So a lot of great banter back and forth. I think one of the earlier conversations I think him and I had on there was we were talking about free agency. It was about this time of year. And I want to say it was 2011, if I'm not mistaken. And that was right before the big free agent prize out there was Prince Fielder. And he had played for the Milwaukee Brewers, came up in their organization. And I think he got traded to the Angels or the Dodgers. I can't remember. And we were just jokingly saying, what would happen if we had Miguel Cabrera and we had Prince Fielder on the Tigers? And about a week later, it happened. They signed him to that obnoxious deal for hundreds of millions of dollars. He had a couple of good years with the Tigers. Of course, they went to the World Series in 2012, and then he got traded to the Rangers. It was a good deal for the Tigers at the time. We ended up getting Ian Kinsler, I believe, in Detroit as part of that deal. Detroit was on the tail end of their run in the playoffs after they traded Prince Fielder. But that's kind of where we started our podcast series. And, Matt, with his endeavors that he has, he talked about the Transplant Foundation, the World Games that they did. And I invite you to check out their YouTube channel too for the highlights. What a production that was down there, by the way. But getting back to talking about Prince Fielder, we talked about the trade deadline back then. Detroit was a relevant team back then, making the playoffs every year. Jim Leyland, if he only knew how to manage his bullpen, I think Detroit would have won a World Series or so. But they were relevant, and they picked up the players that they needed to. Mr. Ilitch was just willing to open the checkbook up and get that winning team. Dave Dombrowski was the GM, and of course, Detroit at one time had one of the best pitching staffs in all of baseball. Scherzer, David Price, Verlander, just to name three of them. I mean, it was incredible what they had. And, of course, they got to the World Series but couldn't get over the top. Fast forward to now, the Tigers are, I don't want to say they're the laughing stock. We'll leave that for the White Sox. But, ever since they fired Dombrowski, they brought in Avila. He didn't do much. Now we've got Scott Harris. And, it's been, 9 years since the Tigers have been to the playoffs, 2015. And as I wrote on my blog on 12 Ounce Sports, which you can check out all of our articles on 12ouncesports.com, the perils of rooting for a losing franchise. The Tigers have, their last World Series championship was 1984. I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore at Central Michigan University. So it's going to be 40 years since they've won a World Series. Detroit's been to the playoffs. The last time was 9 years ago, 2015. They've been to two World Series. They had they went in 87. So let's fast forward my lifetime. 1968, they won the World Series. 1972, they made the American League Championship Series, and they lost in 5 games to the Oakland A's. They didn't go again until 1984. They went on that incredible run. They won the World Series. They were 104-58, started out 35-5. Sparky Anderson, Jack Morris, Alan Trammell, Lance Parrish, Kirk Gibson, you name it. They had one heck of a team. 87, they won the division, 99 wins. They got upset by Kent Herbeck, Kirby Puckett, and the Minnesota Twins. And then the Twins ended up winning the World Series. Then they didn't sniff the playoffs for 19 years. And they had some bad teams. 100-loss teams, 115 losses. They had a 20-game loser for a pitcher. It was bad. Sparky retired, and they went through manager hell. It was bad. Then things brightened up. They finally got some pitchers that clicked. Of course, Justin Verlander, the gem of the starting rotation. And, then they were able to talk Pudge Rodriguez. They signed him to that 4-year, $40 million deal. He took a chance and came to Detroit. And that's what started it. And so then they went on that run. They were in the playoffs more than they weren't. They blew it in 2009. They made it in 2011, got knocked out. Made it to the World Series in 2012. Made it in 2007. They had their run. They had opportunities, made it the playoffs right through till 2015, and then back into oblivion. Now we've got Chris Ilitch. Mike Ilitch, of course, passed away. Now we've got Chris Ilitch, who doesn't open the purse strings. Not at all. And he's got a GM in Scott Harris, who, I know Detroit's building through the minor leagues. They've got the potential. For a month, I lamented on here, do not trade Tariq Skubal. If they do that, I'm done. Well, they didn't trade him. They've got him under team control for 2.5 years. But Flaherty, they traded him to the Dodgers right at the last minute yesterday, like at 5:55, and they got supposedly a good catcher in the system, but we've heard that so many times. My question is, when are the Tigers going to be playing for now? This is going to be another summer, another August, another September where, we're going to get pummeled. They traded Chapin to the Rangers. Supposedly they've got a Godfather deal, an offer they couldn't refuse. Okay, minor league prospects. When are these guys going to pay? I hope they do. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm sitting here next year on a Wednesday night just down the trade deadline with the Tigers in first place where the Guardians are right now. I long for those days. This has been some lean years here in Detroit. The Red Wings, as I said, I'll give them a pass because they brought 4 Stanley Cups and 2 other appearances in the Stanley Cup Finals in 12 years. They had a 25 straight year run in the playoffs, I should say. They were relevant. They're close. They're making headway. They were literally one period away from making the playoffs this year. I think they're right there. In my mind, they made some great signings in the offseason. They're looking to win now. Playing for the future is out. Here in Detroit, we got the Lions. We talked about that with Matt, my old tag team partner, in the first half hour of the show. The Lions are there. They finally went out and got a GM that knows what he's doing, and they drafted well. But it's different. Football and baseball are like apples and oranges. You can, you've got the big draft. There's so many baseball players out there compared to football, so many minor leagues and this and that. But in baseball too, There is no salary cap. Now, I know they've got the luxury tax, but you can go out there. You can field a team. You got to take chances. Detroit is not a free agent destination. It's a cold weather city. You got to pay state tax. You got to take that into consideration when you're offering these players money. They're going to have some money to spend. They've got quite a bit of it. The Little Caesars Pizza empire is there. The Red Wings are selling out. The Tiger fan deserves better than what they're getting. I hope to God that they're there next year. The time for playing for the future is, I'm done with it. The Pistons, who knows what they're doing? I mean, you talk about hitting rock bottom. They've done it. They've definitely hit rock bottom. So now we'll have to wait and see on the Pistons what's going to become, what's become of that. But the trade deadline comes and goes. Not a lot of big splashes. I think Baltimore got themselves a little better. You talk about a organization that's loaded, top to bottom. It's Baltimore. Now, they suffered for quite a few years. If Detroit's taking that route, I hope so. Detroit's got some nice young names, kind of going the route of the Houston Astros. Just don't bang on the garbage cans, AJ Hinch. But I think, they're headed in the right direction. The Yankees are the Yankees. They're always going to be there. They've got that open pocketbook, but they've got the revenue. Seattle and Houston battling their way. I long for the days when Detroit is relevant. Because all I hear about how it's good for baseball, that New York is good, contending. Why isn't it good for the Tigers to be contenders? They're one of the OG teams. They've been around since the turn of the century. And I'm not talking the 20th century. I'm talking the 19th century. They've got history. They were in World Series games 115 years ago. They're one of the original teams, kind of like the original six in hockey. I think it's better when the Tigers are relevant. Maybe that's the Midwest bias coming out of me, but I just feel that way. So I don't know. All right, we're going to take one more break. When we come back, we will indeed wrap it up here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. We're live here on 12 Ounce Sports and the Captain Lou Sports Network on YouTube.
Need tickets to that next event? Well, at 12 Ounce Sports, we've got them with soccer anywhere in the world. Tickets to any venue, any sport. Want to go to NCAA or NFL football matches? We've got them.
Yeah.
Baseball at every level. Every Power 5 matchup is available. Don't forget, costumes and paint are optional. What's that? You want to go to Broadway? We have those too. Want to jam out? Every concert, every artist. That's right. At 12 Ounce Sports, we've got the tickets for less. 12ozsports.com/tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets.
All right, Jeff, thanks again. Of course, that is the godfather of 12 Ounce Sports, Jeff Beck. Again, tickets.12ouncesports.com. We are your place to go. We don't charge you those fees that you see on some of the other secondary markets. And with all the great games coming up with college and pro football just around the corner, about a month or so away, then, of course, you got baseball, the pennant drive coming up in August and September. Minor league games. We're going on a group outing with my work folks in about 2 weeks for the Lansing Lugnuts. You ever want to go to a minor league game here in the state of Michigan? We are blessed with minor league facilities. They're in the high A, single A. They've got two levels, low A and high A. We've got Oldsmobile Park or whatever it's called now, Jackson National Life Park or whatever in downtown Lansing. Then you've got the Whitecaps, Grand Rapids, the Detroit affiliate at over there, and then you've got at the Dolph Diamonds over in Midland, Michigan, with the Dodgers single A affiliate. Those are such fun games to go. We've got tickets for those right here on 12 Ounce Sports on tickets.12ouncesports.com. Again, a lot of interesting stuff going on. We're going to have D3 football coming up in the fall. We've got, again, we've got our live shows in the morning. The Coach, the Rome show at 7 o'clock every morning. Coach Romanella does a great job with that show every morning. Then we've got Pistol Pete, I call him. Philly Pete with Prime Time with Philly Pete. If you want to know what to bet on, the edge every night, this guy's a winner. Check out Philly Pete. 6 o'clock weeknights right here on 12 Ounce Sports. And, of course, Thursday nights at 6:30, the Godfather, Jeff Beck. You talk about a guy that's got rhythm, and he can bounce back and forth. It's a light show for a half hour, very comedic. He's got some great guests. Just wondering when he's ever going to invite me on that show. Maybe it's because I'm a Michigan fan and a fan of the defending national champion Michigan Wolverines, Mr. Ohio State down there, and Mr. P.D. Purdue. We're going to have to talk to him about that. See if we can have me on for a little banter back and forth. We're going to get Jeff back on here on our show before the season starts as well. We're going to talk a little Big Ten football. We talked about at the beginning of the show, a lot of changes. We've talked about it all year, but practice is starting for the NFL coming up here, or I'm sorry, for college football coming up here in the next week or two, and the games start week 0, I think, is the week of the 24th of August. They call it week 0. Some of the smaller schools getting underway. And then the opening weekend, Clemson and Georgia, I think, are playing each other right out of the chute. Something crazy like that. And then week 2, you got Michigan and Texas. There's going to be some wonderful matchups. And a reminder that on the show here and on our YouTube channel, we're bringing back the ultimate contest that we've had running here on 12 Ounce Sports and the Captain Lou Extravaganza, the Captain Lou 6-Pack Challenge. Again, how that works. We pick 6 games for you to pick. 3 college, 3 pro against the spread. I make my picks. It's up to you to make your picks on those games. If you beat my picks, you beat my record for that week, you're put in the drawing for great prizes that we give away the week of the national championship game. It's an extra week this year because of the playoff. I think it's going to be like President's Day weekend, or when, I don't know when it's going to be. It's MLK weekend, whatever. It's in January. But it's a fun contest. It'll be our 4th year doing it. Really looking forward to bringing you that. The prizes are going to be bigger and better than ever. And so we can't wait to start that. That will start Labor Day weekend with the first weekend of college football. So stay tuned for that. We're always going to you're going to see that on our, on our YouTube channels, all of our all the ways you can stream us right here on 12 Ounce Sports. So yeah, just kind of winding things up here with the month of July. And it's been such actually, it's been a busy month in the world of sports. Of course, we got the Olympics going on with Simone Biles winning and her team winning the gold. We'll talk about that for a minute. With all the controversy that went on in the opening ceremonies and whatnot, how about that? All right, well, I did something. I hit the button or whatever. I'll tell you, it's a magic of live radio. All right, anyways, we'll take the headset off. We've only got a couple of minutes left anyways. Getting back to the opening ceremonies for the Olympics, I didn't agree with what they did with the Last Supper. That's just my own personal beliefs. And I remember telling my wife, I saw glimpses of it while I was on vacation, the opening ceremonies. I think, quite frankly, they made it too much about, propaganda and politics and less about the athletes. That's just my opinion. But then I got thinking about it, and I told my wife, I said, I might not watch any of it. But, then I got thinking about it the next day. We were driving back from vacation. I thought, I want to watch the volleyball. I want to watch maybe a little bit of the basketball. I've never been a dream team guy, so I don't know how much of that I'm going to watch, but watching the swimming. I'm not a gymnast guy. I'm not a gymnastics guy, but I watched it. And I'm watching, and I got to tell you, I didn't think I'd watch this much of the Olympics. I'm watching it because of the athletes. And that's why I watch sports. And it got me thinking about what I've said all along about, all the protests with the kneeling and all this and that. Sports is my getaway, from the outside world. The stress of my job, what's going on with my job. It's going to be some trying times in the next month or so. Nothing bad, but just what else is going on, the politics in our country. We are our country divided right now. But I use, as far as politics go, but I use sports as my getaway. And that's what I'm using the Olympics for. You see players and athletes from different countries that on a political stage don't get along or, whatever. But these athletes get along. The camaraderie that they show, the sportsmanship that they show, for the most part. There's a couple of sports, judo, for example, that just I don't get, but I'm glad that I'm watching it. I've watched more Olympics now than I have in the last 12 years. And I've forgotten more about it, about how fun they are to watch. The beach volleyball, the setting there in front of the Eiffel Tower, I've never seen anything so fantastic about that. Still trying to figure out why they're making them swim in the Seine River when that thing hasn't been cleaned since, I don't know, Napoleon was in charge of France, 200 and some years ago. But yeah, going to really look forward to watching the rest of the Olympics. And it's going to be a good lead in to the exhibition season for football. And then, of course, baseball with the pennant races. So there you go. All right, that's going to do it here tonight. I want to thank the OG of the Captain Lou Podcast Network, the Captain Lou Sports Network, Matt Gamelin, joining us in the first half hour. He and I got this all started back in 2010 with the Captain Lou and Matt podcast that we had on Saturday nights. Every other Saturday, we would sit down and BS about sports, and just about pro wrestling. We talk about that so much. It was great having him. He picked up where he left off. I'll tell you what, didn't miss a beat. So it was fun talking sports with him. And of course, I want to thank you, the viewer, for taking time out tonight to be with us. Again, we're going to be on our live TV channel starting next week. The glitches will be worked out 24/7 on 12 Ounce Sports. We got so much going on. Follow us on Twitter, X. Follow us on Facebook, Twitch, Instagram, you name it. YouTube. Follow our YouTube channels, the Captain Lou Sports Network and 12 Ounce Sports. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week for more brand new programming right here on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Until then, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Good night, everybody.